Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of the Las Vegas Advisor Weekly Update with Anthony and Andrew. Today is Wednesday, July 13th. And as always, Anthony, there's a lot going on in Vegas, but today we're going to start with the WSOP. What's going on?
World Series of Poker.
Yes.
Right? It's the biggest poker tournament in the world. They almost broke the record. Mm-hmm. The existing record was, 8,773.
People bought in.
For 10,000 each back in 2006.
Oh, there you go.
And so that was 8,773. They came just under at 8,663 this year.
All right. So things are really kicking back up. People are really coming out here and ready to enter this, really high-level, expensive tournament.
Yeah, I mean, every one of those people putting up $10,000.
It's a lot.
So, a gigantic prize pool there. The prize pool is over $80 million, $10 million to first place.
Wow.
And down to 35 out of, as we're speaking right now, they're in, I believe, day 7 it is, and they're down to 35. The biggest name in it is Damian Salas.
Yeah, heard of him.
Who was the winner 2 years ago. Pretty amazing. He won it 2 years ago, and now he's back again in the top 35. They'll know the final table tonight, after we've already shot this, and then we'll come back next week and talk about who won it, because it's going to happen this weekend.
All right. Final table this weekend, WSOP. So, Anthony, you've actually played in the WSOP before.
In the main event?
Yeah.
Yes, I played one time.
Oh, that's right, because there's a lot of different. WSOP is a lot of different events, but the main event is the $10,000 buy-in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I played it once, and this was way back in, I think, 2005.
Okay.
And
not that long ago. I mean...
17 years ago.
Okay, yeah. I guess that is a while.
There's a pretty interesting story about it, because I have played in hundreds upon hundreds of tournaments, but it's always, blackjack, craps, video
Keno.
poker, Keno, all these different things, roulette, and I rarely played in poker tournaments. I just have never been a real poker expert. I've played my share of poker, but I've played very few tournaments because it just takes too long. It takes too long to learn.
Okay.
So in 2005, we published a book called Kill Phil by Blair Rodman. And Kill Phil was a book about how beginners can do well in poker tournaments. So we all decided, Blair played it, I played it. Blair plays it often, but I played it. I actually won my way in. I played in a satellite, and I won it for the $10,000 buy-in. But I was nervous going into it because I just never played. And when I got to the ballroom, I looked for my table and I saw it was way in the corner. And I'm like, this is great. Nobody's going to see me back there. Because I didn't even know the proper protocol. I'm worried about how do you use the viewer, how do you show it to the camera,
the whole
all
cards.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, the whole card viewer. Yeah. And I was really nervous to do it, even though I had played so many tournaments before.
Yeah.
So I get up, and it's just about time to play, about 10 minutes to play. Everybody's at their seats. Everything's full except my table. There's not one single person at my table.
And you're wondering what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm walking up to it with, in trepidation, and I get there, and it says, this table moved to the featured ESPN TV table.
Oh, geez.
So all of a sudden, here I am. I'm already nervous and worried about it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be on the TV table at
geez.
ESPN.
Yeah.
I walk up there. There's Daniel Negreanu.
Yeah.
There's Sammy Farha. There's a couple other people I recognize, and I sit down. These are some of the top players in the world.
Yeah.
Farha had just become famous with his big showdown with Moneymaker a couple of years earlier. All right, so I sit down, and 50 minutes into the tournament, I get pocket aces.
Yes.
And I go,
There
here we
you
go.
All in, baby.
We get going. I get my money in, and it's me and Farha.
Oh, so did you go all in, or do you remember exactly? Okay, so you played it smooth a bit.
No, there's a bunch of discussion about whether I played it right or wrong.
Okay.
And it's pretty close. I mean, I was supposed to raise probably more using the Kill Phil principle here.
Okay.
I was supposed to raise more. I raised just enough to make Farha come in.
Okay.
And he stayed in. And the flop comes, something 3-7-9 or something. I get all the money in with my aces. And Farha had a pair of threes in the pocket, so he had trips and beat me.
Yeah.
And there I was, my one time playing 50 minutes. That was it. I was out in 50 minutes. It was done. I never played it again.
And Sammy Farha.
Yeah.
Of course. I bet he had a big smile on his face.
He gave me a wink and a smile, and I scuttled off like a beaten puppy.
Yeah. Well, with those two guys and you, no wonder it was a ESPN table.
They didn't know. Nobody knew who I was in the poker world.
Really?
Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who I was on that table.
They didn't know that they were sitting there with like a famous gambler?
They did not. And
Interesting.
It was brought up when they got to they showed that hand on ESPN, and at that point they knew who I was. And they were saying, "Well, he's a blackjack expert. You know, what's the blackjack expert doing here?"
Yeah.
And they made a bunch of jokes about that's what happened when a blackjack expert gets into a poker game.
Oh my God! Okay, we got to get a clip of that because I want to see it. We got to get a clip of that and put it on the YouTube channel.
It can be found. It's out there. Anybody who wants to look it up, they can find it.
All right, maybe if I can find a link, I'll put it in the description box.
And I wish they wouldn't.
Okay. We'll see. You guys will have to check the box and see if it's there. And the WSOP is going on down at BALLYS, which is going to be renamed the Horseshoe because they want to be like the premier poker casino.
Yeah, Horseshoe Las Vegas. They're going to call it on the Strip, and they just made a move down there. They closed the sports book, which was down on the bottom floor beneath the casino.
Yep.
And they're going to turn it into an arcade called Arcade. That's what it's going to be called. There were some rumors that it was going to be a Dave & Buster's, but it's not going to be branded that way. It's just going to be called Arcade.
Yeah, why partner with somebody? We can just put in the games yourself.
It's going to be a 7,000 square foot space.
Sure.
All ages, meaning that people can bring their kids. And they can play down there, and there's going to be a bar where the adults can drink and their kids can play. And they say they're going to have some of the classic old games. So, maybe we see some Space Invaders or Asteroids or Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man or, Frogger or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, some of my greatest memories of being a child are going to the arcade with my dad and playing. And those games, you don't even have a chance to win your money back.
Yeah, exactly. So that's coming up. It's supposed to be open by this fall.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. And just south of BALLYS, the Hawaiian Marketplace is closed.
Yes. Anybody who's wondering what the Hawaiian Marketplace is, if you remember when you're driving down the Strip, you just passed MGM Grand, and you look to the right, and there's all of those restaurants and souvenir shops.
Yeah.
That's the Hawaiian Marketplace. And there was another area adjacent to it called Cable Center. Those two places, they've operated for years and years and years. And you always drive by it and go, what a strange-looking place. But it was always full of people. And they're always milling around and getting their T-shirts and hats and things like that.
Yeah, like 3 T-shirts for $10, things like that.
Well, they closed it. They essentially kicked out all the tenants. Supposedly, the owner is going to turn it into some sort of upscale retail. And I don't know what that means, but something's happening. More is happening on the south end of the Strip, right next to Harmon Avenue, right where Tillman Fertitta is going to be eventually building his casino.
Right. So it really seems like that part of the area is really being built up into things that are new.
Yeah, well, back and forth, North Strip, South Strip, North, South. Just the Strip is happening again. People are doing things on the Strip.
Yeah, they're going to take the Strip and continue it all the way down to Fremont Street.
Eventually, yeah, maybe.
And this doesn't happen often. Bellagio, just up the street from there, they have lowered their prices to the buffet. What's going on with that?
Well, if you recall, or anybody who watches this, we talked about maybe a couple months ago, we talked about the Bellagio buffet having kind of gone down in stature. And all they do is they do a weekend buffet, and a weekday and a weekend buffet. And we had, Bellagio had always had that reputation as one of the best buffets in Vegas. And we kind of made the point that it had dropped down in quality behind places like the Wynn and even the Cosmopolitan and certainly the Bacchanal, even though, these are more expensive. Well, they lowered the price. And the weekday buffet was dropped $8 down to $41.99.
Wow.
And the weekend was dropped $10 down to $49.
That's really inexpensive for the Bellagio.
Well, again, if you think that it's good enough, they don't have the crab legs like they used to and all the things that people used to go for, but they still, they still cut roast beef round and, all that kind of thing. So they have their salads and it's still a really good buffet.
Right. It's a thorough buffet with a lot of different types of food that you can eat.
But they dropped to $10. So that must be the market, speaking there. Crowds were down. Speaking of crowds, since we're talking about Bellagio, I'm going to bring up one thing because if the crowds come back, there was always a specific play there that wasn't available, is not available at other buffets. And that was what we used to call the counter play, that you could bypass the line and go to the center of the buffet where the bar was.
Right.
And there was a counter there at the bar. And you could eat your buffet there. The bartender would take your ticket and give you your receipt and everything else. And you could go there. We call it the counter play.
And so you don't have to wait in line if there's a seat at the counter, but it's first come, first serve.
First come, first serve, and it's usually good if you're a single diner. Sometimes it's hard to get two there next to one another, but if you're by yourself, you always got to check the counter at the Bellagio.
All right, so that's a good tip if you're staying at the Bellagio or around the Bellagio and you want to check out the Bellagio buffet. If there's a long line, just go see if there's anybody at the counter And if there's nobody at the counter, you can avoid the line.
When the Bellagio was really popular, this was amazing. But this was an amazing play.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, you heard it here. And here is something different, and of course I like it because it's free. What am I talking about?
Well, I don't know how to explain it. I call it runway viewing.
Okay.
And for years and years, people in Las Vegas knew about this one area on Sunset Road near the airport, which was McCarran back then. Now it's Reed International, where you could kind of they cut a space in there where you could jog in with your car and park your car and get out. You're behind a fence and watch the planes land and take off. And it's like right there. It's right on the runway. There's always people there, or at least when it was open before the pandemic, there were always people there with their kids. You know, the little kids used to love to go and watch the planes take off and land. And when the pandemic came, they closed it down, and you couldn't park your car in there. You couldn't go. And more than 2 years later, they've reopened it.
Okay.
So it's, like you say, it's absolutely free. If you're looking for something to do with your kids, we talked about the arcade coming earlier. You can take them out to Reed International, Sunset Road, park your car, get a spot, and watch the planes take off and land. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, it's also cool to see things that are opening up again still.
Yeah, more things still opening. I mean, you know, not all of Las Vegas is 100% open, and there are things here and there, and that's one of them. And another one is back in operation. I love it.
And our jackpot of the week comes from Charles. Being a local since 2004, I decided to purchase the Frugal Video Poker Scouting Guide. On June 23rd, I went for lunch at the Palace Station. After lunch, I put $20.25 in the triple-double bonus poker machine, and on the fourth spin, I was dealt 3 aces, which I held and turned into 4 aces with a 2 for a $1,000 win. Cashed out and went home.
All right. Well, interesting. Triple-double bonus.
Yeah, with a kicker. There you go.
You got it's another one of those games that you can get a payoff for a royal flush without hitting a royal flush.
Yeah.
You know, volatile game. He got 4 aces with a kicker, 2, 3, or 4. Pays 4,000 coins, which is $1,000 on a 25-cent game. So that's what he did. He was playing this particular schedule, 98.15%. It's a volatile game. You know, your money's going to go up and down, but people like it because of, you know, what happened to him.
Right, exactly, because you're giving something up to be able to get another hand, 4 aces with a kicker.
Yeah, the lower payoffs, you know, they don't pay as well as the other. You can look at the schedule that we put up and you can see that. But a couple of interesting things here. You know, one is he said he put in $20.25. And I don't know what the 25 cents was all about, but obviously it worked for him.
Yeah.
And you can see from the cash out photo that 25 cents is still there.
It's hilarious.
Right? So there's no reason to do that, but he just happened to. He also mentioned the Frugal Video Poker Scouting Guide.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because he almost talks about it like that's what made him win. And it really didn't. You know, the scouting guide
would say not to use that. I would say this is a bad schedule.
Well, it would show him that the schedule was, 98% plus, which isn't too bad. But that's what the scouting guide does. We actually have a lot of people, maybe they'll buy it on Amazon and they'll return it and they'll go, I didn't understand it. Because they think the scouting guide is for some reason going to teach them how to play video poker. The scouting guide, all it does is show you what every schedule that's out there just about returns, which you can't find anywhere else. And that's where the value is of it. You have to learn to play video poker in other areas. Right.
So this is a guide that's going to tell you what the pay schedule is of all the different types of video poker games, and there's so many different types.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out to be really, for a good video poker player or somebody who plays a lot, it turns out to be really valuable because no matter how good you are, the better the schedule you play, the better you're going to do.
Right.
So if you're a bad player who loses money, you're going to lose less. So the scouting guide is great. I've said it before. It's one of my favorite products, but it's not going to help you win.
All right, so we love when our viewers send us stuff, and Charles attached a picture to this that he shot in 1985 on Fremont Street.
Yeah, he just threw it in. He goes, oh, by the way, here's a photo I shot in 1985 on Fremont Street.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to look at because this is 10 years before the Fremont Street experience.
Right.
So you notice there's no dome, there's no...
The giant LCD screen.
Yeah, okay. So you notice there's no screen up above.
Yeah.
You notice that there's a thoroughfare. It's, cars can drive there. Kids used to go up and down, up and down, up and down on that road. You can see it to the right. You can see it says Binion's Horseshoe, not just Binion's like it does now. You can see the Mint, which is next to it. Obviously, there's no Circa down to the right. Those are the Sassy Sally's and those places. So anyone who was here in 1985, you can get a little bit of a history jolt by taking a look at that photo.
Yeah, it's a little nostalgia, but the plaza looks exactly the same.
Exactly the same, but we know that's changing too, right?
Definitely. We reported on that, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
All right, you guys, that's it for this week. Please like, share, and subscribe, and send us your jackpots. Send it right here. Send us your jackpots. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.